Hello, folks. So, apologies for the technical issues in the stream, but we are here with the title finale of PSGL PCF5. We're going to waste absolutely no time here as we are literally about to jump into the track with qualifying. So, here's the results and here's the things you need to know. Noel, Carmen, and Yuki are our title protagonists heading into the final round in Circuit of the Americas. 7 points separate them, and if Noel Carmen finishes 4th or lower while Yuki finishes first, then that means that Yuki could potentially take the Drivers' Championship. And then looking at the Constructors, it's a very similar story. 22 points separate McLaren and AlphaTauri, with the both of them looking to take away trophies today. We've got a few seconds before we jump into the qualifying session and taking a look at the track as well. It looks like it's going to be a good one. So, Circuit of the Americas, we know it well. We can definitely appreciate just some of the amazing driving that we can see and expect on this track. 3.425 miles, 20 turns. Of course, you've got 2 DRS zones. That big uphill turn 1, which means braking distances deceptively short heading on the uphill. But we are about to jump into the racing, folks. We're about to jump in with qualifying, PCF5. Give us a like on the stream if you enjoy the content. And as we head forward into the final round, Sartek is with me in the commentary box. We're about to jump into things. And of course, let me know who you are expecting to come out on top.
Oh, I'm excited about this final qualifying session of the season. I'd like to say let the games begin, but I like to think we get nice few laps in qualifying from all the drivers, 19 drivers who shortly will be coming out on track. I already see a Red Bull, McLaren. No, McLaren's out. That'll be one to watch, and I believe this could be Leoland, first McLaren out of the pits.
Let's say Fazekas was supposed to leave their pit box, but it is going to be Aelfin, I believe, who is out on track ahead of everyone else. So they're effectively going to get their jump on the competition here. And we're going to expect some fireworks. For a lot of drivers, this is going to be their sort of one chance to stand up and perform. We may, of course, have the title fight, but there's also fights for 4th, 6th, you name it. So up and down the field, people are going to be putting absolutely everything into this final run.
Yeah, without a doubt. And with Alpine out on track in the lead, familiar sight even going back to the first race of the season. And hopefully here out today, he gets a brilliant qualifying session done and even a much brilliant race. Of course, back to the topic at hand with the Constructors title fight, Matteo will be alongside Yuki today, and I'm pretty sure Yuki will be hoping to see Matteo right up there in the top 5.
Well, everyone's got to pull their weight. The Constructors is a little bit of a different ballgame when it comes to the points, when it comes to playing the team game. And while Drivers, it's all about pride. It's about you, the driver, bringing your absolute A game, showing the competition what you're made of, which I'm sure Carmen and Yuki are going to be taking that perspective. You've got Leoland and you've got Matteo, who are also going to be sitting there thinking they're in the background with the Constructors, but that's a point that we can discuss later. Right now, all eyes are on Aelfin, first driver to go and set a full lap. Let's see how they do. It's looking nice and strong through the first corner. I'm going to hop on board as we head through the first sector. Now, this is notoriously difficult to get right. You've got to set up your car perfectly, rides the curbs, little bit of lift off, just to keep the car planted. Don't want to go into any understeer, have to make any corrective moves. It's a very clean line, at least initially, through the first sector. Now heading into the hairpin before the first, technically, DRS zone, because the second DRS zone does start just before the start-finish line, so it's technically counted as DRS zone 2. Either way, what speeds are we going to be looking forward to seeing? Can expect, say, 190, 195, nearly 200 miles an hour coming from the Alfa Romeo, 198 peak before we head right down to third gear, say, rolling onto the throttle nice and gently, making sure it doesn't oversteer the car. A couple of yellows coming out briefly as drivers set themselves up for their laps. I think that's Dimas in the Ferrari. But as Aelfin comes through, final few corners now, just keep the speed up, keep the car planted. Just a little bit off the edge of the throttle, and as he balances the car very nicely, not quite full throttle, but just enough to power him through the corner. Short shifts a little bit earlier to get nice and early on the power, and that's a 132.685 from the Alfa Romeo. That's going to be the benchmark. Is anyone going to topple it? For Fazekas, it has an invalidation, doesn't set a lap this round. Leo Lund, 32.8, just a couple milliseconds behind, or a couple tenths, sorry. Carmen is about to start a lap. I believe that's the Haas of Joris as well about to start. Nope, that is going to be Sparky with the 33.4.
Yeah, without a doubt, you can already see some stellar laps coming through from the likes of Elfin. Even that's purple sector too for him. But I just saw Yuki snatch it away from him, and I think another driver did from Yuki as well, who's on a fast lap of his own. So while Noah Kamen has begun a fast lap of his own, Yuki's almost done with the first lap time. We can see on our boards as he comes along the final corner. The first lap time of the session has a Tushy wheel there out the final corner, but regardless, that's the fastest lap time of the session.
So it's a 32.3, and it's a good benchmark for the other drivers to hit. So a few tenths clear of Aelfin with a 0.6, and that is this effectively the bar to be cleared. Dimas coming across the line now. What's it going to be? It's a 32.3 flat, 16 milliseconds ahead of the AlphaTauri. That is going to set the new benchmark. Is Matteo going to come in with any form of challenge to it? It's going to be a 33.1. That's not quite going to be there just yet.
But they're up there in the top 5. I'm pretty sure Yuki will have a smirk on his face. But let's not forget, apart from the title fights, this will and is the last race any one of these drivers can actually end up winning or be on the podium this season. So you can already see Dimas making a count out there. It's just now it's his job to make sure he consistently sets a lap time good enough to be in the top 5. Noah Kamen goes third fastest so far.
Yeah, half a tenth off of the top times. In fact, literally half a tenth off of his championship rival. It's going to be tight, and everyone is going to be putting their absolute A game on display today. That is for sure. We're coming to sort of the end of the first run, and I believe a lot of drivers got invalidations, so we're just waiting to see who is going to be next to put a fresh time on the grid, because as it stands, 50% of the cars out have yet to set anything. McBlurk is looking like they are on a run though. That's fastest personal for Sector 1. Going to see what kind of pace they can carry heading into the rest of the circuit. Passes the McLaren, making sure they had plenty of space. Danica with a 34.1 is going to need to pick their socks up a little bit on that. I imagine there was maybe a little bit of mistake there, but by having a banker lap, they have guaranteed that they jump up ahead of the rest of them on the grid, who have yet to set a time. Heading into the third sector then, nice and tight and technical. This is why you don't see very high speeds beyond 200 miles an hour here at COTA. It's making sure that you have the grip necessary to take it through the hairpins and through these rapidly switching left and right double apexes. Heading through a final set of corners now, heading into turn 19. This is very careful. You've got to get it right. Little bit low on the throttle there, but prioritizes keeping the car safe. Short shifting, another very good strategy. McBlurk's going to be a 33.8. He's going to put in P9 for now.
Yeah, I was looking at the onboard of Kintex and just reminiscing a couple of the earlier races where he did seem like quite the driver to watch out for, consistently in the top 5 in the first couple of races. Regardless, he's on set to set one of his final lap times of qualifying this season. But yeah, a bunch of these drivers are pretty laid back around COTA and almost gets impeded there, the Mercedes of Kaze in Sector 1. But regardless, a bunch of these drivers are saying quick laps out there. It'll be interesting to see the quickest lap times at the end of this session. 10 minutes left for the final qualifying session of PSGL F5. That's a Sector 1 from Kaze. Yeah, I got that right.
Yes, Kaze's looking good here. Looking like they have found a little bit of balance. Found their own little space on the track, which I think is the most important, especially as you get to the later minutes of a qualifying session. Short quali like this, all too common to see packs of 4, 5, 6 cars just huddling together on track, getting in each other's way, not to mention the dirty air issue. It is a real important part of your lap that you get some clean space to run as required. course, you have teammates who you can benefit from, but that's really few and far between. That's a spin. That looks like that is Jashki there, spinning the
Yep, an
car
Alpine.
in the Alpine. But here we go. Kaze on a run here. They've managed to keep the car clean for the most part. Seem very close to track limits, but not before. Oh, big twitch, though, coming out the final corner. That's going to lose them a ton of time. It's going to demote them all the way down to P11 with a 34.4.
Yeah, that cost him quite a bit in the out the final corner. And not the first time we are seeing car have that kind of a moment. We did see Yuki experience something similar, despite being top qualifier so far. Yeah, a bit of traffic there actually over in Sector 2. I see an Aston Martin, Haas, Ferrari, and an AlphaTauri in the mix.
Yeah, it's a big kerfuffle going on around there. But what we can wait to see is whether any of the 7 drivers remaining are going to post a time. They know that time is running short, so I'd honestly prioritize safety. Just make sure you have something on the boards at this stage. You can always go for a better run later. You have about 5 minutes left by the time you're done with a lap right now. And Super Gaming, I think, is exploiting that fact to good effect, as it looks like they're on a pretty clean run here. But I'm sure drivers are eagerly eyeing up what season 33 might bring. And also that begs the question, who's going to be commentating where? Because as you know, PSGL rotates through the commentary rosters. So I'm excited to see what the leagues will look like, what the matchups will look like, and who is going to sit themselves where. And also special congratulations to George Morgan, the one and only. He's going to be commentating on the Esports Challengers, so big love to him.
That's fantastic to hear. And if it counts, I'd say Sappy deserves a proper pat on the back. And I like to think I'll have probably somebody else alongside me. Not that I don't enjoy your company, Sappy, but I think you deserve a proper treatment onwards to the next season. But I just peaked a proper purple Sector 1 from Yuki. I like to think this is an even more quicker lap coming out of the driver behind the wheel of an AlphaTauri. And he still has time for one more lap.
Let's say Yuki looking a little bit down coming out of the Sector 2. Super Gaming set a P4 with a 32.5. So looking strong on that front. A lot of drivers are, in fact, say stopped out on track. But Yuki is going to be a 32.225. Going to notch that bar ever so slightly higher. Is Noel Coleman going to be able to match? It looks like they're on a pretty strong first sector. It's a 10th down. And I'm going to stop saying too much because the commentator's curse might start to kick in if I'm not careful.
Without a doubt, we saw bits and pieces of that early into the season, but, you know, just talking about Super Gaming earlier, he's 4th fastest now so far with 6 minutes left. But let's continue to stay on board Noel Carmen as he enters Sector 2.
Let's say looking on board, seeing what he can do. That's really the question, is that what can he do? How can he optimize the lap that he has? He really needs to make up a 10th and a half, and he's made up a 10th, but it's still that extra half piece that's going to separate him from the top step. Yuki might have pole position at any rate, as that is a very high bar to clear. You've got a few drivers fighting for contention of that, and you see full push, the amount of commitment from Noel Karma going right to the line, really gunning the throttle as soon as they can. It's going to be a 2.89. It's going to promote them past Alexander Dimas, but it's not going to be enough to take the pole from the AlphaTauri.
Yes, so far the only closest driver to be on a fast lap is definitely Danico. So the rest of the drivers are seemingly heading into the pits for a new set of tires, or maybe just lay back for a bit before coming out for their final runs. But it's amazing to see still 6 drivers yet to set a lap time, and you see a bunch of these drivers who we've seen consistently in the top 10, you know, in the front of Fazekas, Justin, that racer. I'm surprised they haven't set a lap time yet.
Yeah, so you've got a lot of drivers who really just need to get something on the board at this stage. It's looking like time could be potentially running out for a lot of them. You say you got the likes of Danny Cohn or Carmen still out track, but I imagine are very soon to head into the pits too. Realistically, you've got about 1 lap left in you for this qualifying session before you start to run out of time and cut it a little bit close to that checkered flag.
Yeah, and by the looks of it, None of the drivers have come out apart from Justin, that racer from that bottom half of the table. So clearly, I think they're trying to do a one and done kind of thing here around the circuit of the Americas. And I like to think Justin, that racer, might just get 2 laps. But I see a couple of the front runners coming out on track as well for a fast lap. I see Ailfin on his way out on track already. Super Gaming just got out of the pits as well.
Yes, Justin the Racer did unfortunately disconnect from the session earlier, so they've joined back. So that case, you can give a little bit of benefit of the doubt to, but still is running thin on time, and time that he doesn't necessarily have to waste. So he is going to be able to get one more lap in here, but the question is whether they are going to use that one chance to best effect. A few more drivers starting to peel out the pits now. Leonard Jashki is going to be another who's coming out on track. Both Alfa Romeos as well. Not to mention the likes of the Aston Martins and the Mercedes. Going to be hopefully seeing some fireworks in these last few minutes.
Yeah, without a doubt. I'm curious to see how Kaze actually ends up, where he actually ends up. I think he's still got a lot of time in him. I think he can set a good enough lap time to possibly put himself in the top 5. We saw Super Gaming do just that at the tail end of the last couple of minutes. And of course, with 3 minutes left, it's anyone's guess who's going to lock out the front row. Of course, we'd all like the title rivals to really lock out the front row, but Alfin is in the mix to break that up. Alexander Dimas as well, and Super Gaming too, who's on a fast lap on his own.
Yes, Alfin has almost sneakily managed to slot himself up into P2 between the two title protagonists. Now, is there going to be a retaliation to that? Absolutely. I'd expect nothing less. Maybe from the likes of Noel Carmen, but you say Yuki is going to be heading out on a lap as well, so not resting on their laurels, not content with a .225. It's going to be a little bit more. Ooh, Justin, though, losing the grip on the rear, coming out of the first sector here, heading into the hairpin. They're managing to keep their car tight, but still seem to be struggling, and a few drivers are. I'm noticing that a lot of them tend to lose the rear a little bit, especially getting on the throttle a bit too early. It's almost characteristic of the circuit that you're going to have someone losing the rear, potentially spinning.
Yeah, and if it happens on the final corner, we saw it mess up Kaze's run last time out, and even to an extent Yuki's run, but a flurry of drivers out on track right now for their outlaps ahead of setting one final fast lap. I think not all of them are going to get to by the looks of it, but I just hope clean runs nevertheless.
Yeah, so looking forward to some good laps, some clean laps more importantly, as we are officially in the territory of if you are not out on track by this point, you are done. So Ailfin not going to be improving on their time. Justin going to be setting a 33.7. That's good enough for P11. They're not going to have a chance to go again. You got the likes of Fazekas about to cross the line. That is going to be their outlap, or at least certainly a lap that they need to make most of pretty much right now. Got a few drivers starting to peel in. Super Gaming heads into the pits, opts not to go for a run. Leo Lund is going to be on the field as well. And yeah, pretty much everyone is headed out bar the Alfa Romeos.
Yeah, well, it looks of it, Momento on his first ever run today just set purple sector 1. I think it got snatched. That's a Mercedes off track. The Fazekas has retired from the session at the very last moment, you could say. Yuki is still the fastest out there, followed by Ailfin. No comment to follow. Alexander Dimas and Super Gaming in the top 5, but this is going to be an intense final minute and contact between the Aston Martin and one of the other cars in Sector 3, and that's Super Gaming out of the session.
Say Super Game completely out of it. Joris is going to be taking a 5-place grid penalty, as it looks like there's contact made as well. And yeah, so there's going to be a few shufflings as the checker flag has fallen. Kaze goes P11. That is the Aston of, I believe is that Elliot? No, that is not Elliot. That is going to be Memento. Completely off of the track and out of the running, which leaves a few drivers left in contention. You've got, say, a few drivers like Elliott, who unfortunately has not been able to place a lap time along with Fazekas. Barros is on a run technically, so might have a potential chance. That's them coming across the line now. What are they going to set? It's going to be a P9 with a 33.1, so very good final flash of brilliance from that Williams. Is anyone going to retaliate? Leo Lund's going to be coming across the line. P7, 32.662. Yuki across the line is going to be slower than their previous, is not going to make an improvement. And as I believe that is the Alpines coming across the line now. Jashki, no improvement. McBlurk manages to hop a position on Justin with a 33.5. But Noel Carman with a 32.177 brings the heat in the final moments. That's going to be that half a tenth we were talking about earlier. They're going to bring that and then some. 177 puts them well ahead and in provisional pole. And with Kaze, Justin, and Kintix still out, Kintix manages to promote themselves to P10, but I think that is Noel Carman with provisional pole here in Austin.
Yeah, I think we can call Kaze clearly not his best lap. 17 seconds off the pace, and Justin, that race was just retired. So yeah, we do get what we wanted. It's the title rivals in the title finale locking out the front row.
Yeah, and that is going to be Carman in P1 with a 132.177 and Klaverbock a half tenth behind with a 32.2. Elfin and Alexander Dimas do also bring their A game, coming in quite close to our title rivals with Super Gaming in P5, but unfortunately not getting that critical chance of improvement thanks to a collision. So you can see your final qualifying standings here now. And looking at the grid, it's going to be spicy. So our two title protagonists take the front row with Alfa Romeo and Ferrari in P3 and 4, Super Gaming and Leo Lund, Danny Coe, Joris, Sparky and Kintix, although Joris will receive a 5-place grid penalty following a collision during qualifying. So you can see that a few drivers are walking away happy and a few drivers like Elliott and Fazekas are going to be left out of luck, and hopefully they'll be able to make some moves back. So that is qualifying for F5 PC, and we will be right back with you after a word from our sponsors. Alright folks, just as a reminder of what is at stake heading into the final round of PSGL's F5 PC Championship Season 32, we have Noel Coleman and Yuki battling it out for the title of Drivers' Champion. 7 points separate them. Coleman has pole position, Yuki in P2. Justin, who was a little bit off of the pace, what was in P3, it's safe to say that all eyes are on our top two contenders. And looking at the constructors as well, it's another story of McLaren versus AlphaTauri. So you can expect fireworks out on track, everyone bringing their absolute A game. And of course, massive thank you to everyone who makes it possible. Code PSGL at checkout for a healthy discount if you go to GT Omega for all your sim racing needs. We're about to jump into the race here, folks. And it's time to go racing.
Without a doubt. And what better place to finish to wrap up the season essentially than Circuit of the Americas. Into turn one, it's anyone's guess who will be the lead car, but it's 5 lights on the board for the final time this season. And the lights are out and the way they go. Noah Carmen gets a good enough start, but Yuki gets an even better start, but that's Elfin around the outside and 4 abreast into turn 1 with an AlphaTauri's nose in front and a McLaren to follow. Contact between the Alfa Romeo and Ferrari right behind, and the midfield have kept it clean so far, but 3 abreast regardless through the S's.
Saying that, I saw some debris flying off one of the cars earlier. I'm not sure what's happened there, but someone has been demoted to the bottom of the field quickly. That is going to be Elliott, and it's absolute chaos in the midfield right now. Let's see what's going on in the center of it all. Hopping aboard with McBlurk here, trying to get the perspective on the situation. As Joris down in P15 now from a P13 start. Everyone has managed to balance themselves out, but Leo Lund is going to be making a bit of a lunge on Dimas. Klaffenbach, he's managing to get away into P1 because Noel Kalman did not get the best start, resulting in the top 4 going all side by side heading into the first corner. DRS is not available yet, but time is running out to make the most of it. Oh, Leo Lund absolutely going for it out of that back straight, but immediately gets the switchback by not only Elfin, but Dimas is also putting a little bit of pressure on him now as well. Kaze has disconnected from the session, so we're going to see them demoted a little bit, but it looks like contact between Dimas and Leo Lund forces him to go off track and has to relegate themselves, or not. They're going to continue that fight all the way through the lap. They are continuing to go tooth and nail. Leo Lund, again, going wide, having to really go tooth and nail for that space on the track, as Aelfin and Super Gaming are also in the mix. But it's going to be an absolute heated battle as we go into lap 2, and it's not even over. Leonard's going to give that full deploy, give it absolutely everything, as Dimas is going to go a little bit defensive. His focus is now on Super Gaming. That McLaren, despite everything and despite how many times they basically got ran out of room, they're up in P4. They managed to make it work.
Yeah, neither driver gave up, and I won't be surprised if they don't give up this lap even. Of course, mind you, each driver pushed the other off track a bunch of times, but regardless, Leo Lund has made up 2 positions, and up in front, Yuki has taken the lead of the race after turn 1. Let's not forget, Fazeka's what a start he's had. 10 positions in a matter of a couple of laps, but he's fighting Sparky now, and he's trying to regain that position, but I think he'll have to settle for P9 at the back straight. I think he has to settle for P9 after all.
Yeah, so at this point, you've just got to keep your car safe, keep your car within that 1 second tow. I think that's more crucial because DRS will activate next lap. So you've got to reserve what resources you do have and what means you have at your disposal. Like these 2 top drivers, notice how they both still got about 90% on the battery. They're using it just enough so that they're not wasting any potential charge, but at the same time, they're keeping their wits about them. They know the playing field and they're trying their best to play to it.
Yeah, and I'm just looking at Fazekas. It's almost like Noah Carmen's behind that wheel now. Up in a P8. Oh, he's battling it out with the Haas. He's waiting patiently as Noah Carmen sets the fastest lap time out of the final corner. Seems like Fazekas got a beautiful exit, and he might just be able to get enough tow. And into turn 1, he'll be able to dive in down the inside of the Haas, I like to think. And yes, he will, but we'll have to stay level pegging throughout sector 1 to have a shot at sealing that P8. Yes, he almost does, and through the S's they'll go, not side by side, but front and back.
Yeah, so if I was Fazekas in this position, I'd be angry, because I'm on the medium tyre. I should be faster, and I should be getting around this Haas basically pronto as if he was standing. So with the tyre compound difference at play, in fact, Fazekas the highest up on the, ironically, hard runners who are at the front of the pack. The medium runners seem to be struggling at the bottom end of the field, but yeah, if you're on the faster compound, you should expect to be able to get round with relatively little issue. So for that not to be happening, big concern.
Yeah, but it'll happen after all as he gets level pegging, and through this particular corner he'll be up ahead, up in a P8, and the climb continues. He's got a much more significant gap to make up to Super Gaming, who's up in P7 and has a challenge in his own right with Danico. I believe they did switch positions just once so far, but on lap number 3, Yuki continues to lead this race ahead of Noah Carmen, Alfine, Leo Lund, and Alexander Dimas in the top 5.
But crucially, this is where Yuki has to play the field very, very carefully. Noel Carmen has that advantage of DRS, so whether he uses it to preserve the battery or whether Yuki is able to retain their position, it's all up for debate, and it's all down to the strategy and how these two choose to play the field right now. Because Carmen can either go for a push, only to expect retaliation, or he can opt to reserve resources. And that is a brief yellow. That is going to be Joris in P18, having come off the track in the third sector. I called it. I knew it was going to happen.
And yes, somehow his front wing is intact, so all fine there. But up in front, there's a proper DRS train being formed throughout the field, pretty much from P1 down to P15. And Memento snatches that fastest lap. But all eyes on Super Gaming, who's getting very impatient behind Danico. And Fazekas has made that gap up, and he's now within a second of Super Gaming. So this particular battle, I am on the edge of my seat for Super Gaming versus Danico, ahead of Fazekas on those medium tires, steaming through.
Yes, they got to bide their time, more importantly. If you're a hard runner, you've got to acknowledge that if you come up against someone on a medium, yes, of course, stand your ground. But saying that, that is Barros, I believe, who is around on the track. He has recovered now, but is going to be losing themselves to P19. Big gap to the rest of the field, these bottom three are. But I would acknowledge that if I'm on a hard compound against a medium compound, you can make their life difficult, but they're going to get by. Ooh, saying that though, something has happened. Super Gaming is off the track.
Yeah, Super Gaming was level pegging with Danico, and they were going side by side through into sector 3. Not the greatest of parts of the track, greatest parts of the track to go side by side on, and I believe there was contact, and Super Gaming just got sent straight into the wall. No front wing. Heads into the pits for a quick change, but opportunity for Fazekas. Better tire compound, and Danico probably has a bit of damage.
Yeah, so that contact is going to be crucial in the rest of the game strategy, because even if it doesn't look like it visually, your wing can pick up damage as much as, I believe, 10 or 15% before you start to show it visually, and that is going to make a massive difference on your cornering ability, especially when it comes to the stability of the front end, maybe propensity to understeer. That is the crucial thing you've got to be aware of as a driver. But Fazekas giving it everything on those mediums, 20% on the ERS, not really having much of an opportunity though.
Battle for the lead as Noah Carmen dives on the inside in sector 2, and they're still level pegging Yuki and Noah Carmen. This is the AlphaTauri and McLaren as they go through sector 3. The S's, and you'd imagine they were level pegging. Yuki retakes the lead for now, but I like to think Noah Carmen comes back on the main straight. Nothing's changing. Elfin actually has closed in a bit on the front runners. He's going to be patiently waiting for an opportunity as well. Leolan not too far behind. Dimas as well. So yeah, this top 5 is going to be very interesting for the next couple of laps.
I'm going to give a bit of a hot take here. I think Carmen not getting past Yuki is a very smart strategic play, because now Yuki knows that Carmen is right there breathing down his neck. Of course, we've seen him be able to handle pressure before. That's no different. But eventually, no matter how good of a driver, composed of a driver you are, having that pressure constantly there, constantly building, it's going to get to anyone. So really, it will be a case of just how patient can Carmen be and just how composed can Yuki remain before a move is made. And to be honest, Carmen doesn't even need to push. Remember, 7 points ahead in the standings, so all he needs to do is, if Yuki is in the lead, all he needs to do is finish higher than 4th. His teammate is going to make quick work of that, and let me assure you, having a teammate in P4 is a brilliant stroke. But saying that, it looks like he's going to be going for the move round on the second, on the back straight, sorry. Is going to have it done, going to be putting everything into that ERS move, as that looks like there is a Williams briefly marooning themselves in sector 1. But Carmen, all eyes on that McLaren, as he's got around and managed to stick a little bit of a gap in there for good measure.
Yeah, Leolan not too far behind. You pointed that out. He is seemingly getting closer and closer to Aelfin as well. A similar move executed by Fazekas on Danico, just like Carmen did on Yuki. And yeah, Fazekas up at a P6 on those mediums after 6 laps or so. And on the main straight, the top 5, all within a second of each other, as you'd expect. Leolan, this time on the offense, is what I want to see. But Aelfin edging even more closer to that AlphaTauri.
But looking at the constructors as well, P1 and P4 for the McLaren, that is a lock-in. With Matteo down in P11, it's going to be very difficult to recover anything from that position. And of course, Leo Lund being in P4, right conveniently on the threshold where you have your cutoff for the driver's champion for your teammate. This is a brilliant chance for both of them to coordinate, work together. Leo Lund can effectively serve as a wingman, like a blocker, so to speak, by making it difficult for the lives of, say, Dimas or even Aelfin, putting a bit of pressure on behind. By making their lives difficult, and of course having those teammates close together, means that they can really execute a good strategy together if they coordinate and work on it. Then Aelfin going a little bit deep there. Little bit of tension starting to build. We're maybe seeing the driver start to crack, as that is a Haas of Joris now going off in Sector 1. But saying that, Leo Lund is going to be going for a move. He's going to be having absolutely none of it. He knows the aggression that he saw earlier in the round, and he thinks a little bit of return to sender time. It's these three that have been fighting absolutely tooth and nail. Leo Lund back through. Is Aelfin going to get a switchback? No, he's not. He's not going to be within that second threshold, though. That's going to be important, as Aelfin might scale a counter-attack. Dimas breathing right down his neck, though, is going to be very tough to go for a run, as Aelfin in fact doesn't have DRS, goes very narrow. Dimas is going to keep committed regardless, hang it on the inside of turn 1, and that is Ferrari up in P4.
I do not know how Dimas didn't lock up the front left, having been pushed to the wall so close as well. So pretty late braking from Dimas there. Regardless, he's up in a top P4, and Pazeka is not too far behind of Aelfin now. Seems like history repeats, but in the back of the field, tension between Justin that race and Kazia, or might have just been a mistake on my part. Regardless, up in front, Aelfin, history repeats. He is falling down the order once again, but he's closing in on Dimas by the looks of it. Dimas fumbled just a bit, but Fazekas is closing in on those mediums regardless on lap number 8.
Yeah, I think the important thing is Fazekas has done a great job of maximizing the mediums while they have them, and I think that's an important point. Everyone else is starting on the hards because the hards are your mile munchers. They're the ones that you fall back on to make sure that your ideal compound, which in this case will be the mediums, can make it to the end of the race. And by doing it almost in reverse, it's looking like it's going to be a difficult one. But saying that, McBlurk and Matteo are trading spots. AlphaTauri is going to be trying to fight around. Kintix also putting a bit of pressure on, as McBlurk seems to have run out of battery. Is a sitting duck, especially with that ERS and DRS disadvantage.
Yeah, elbows are all out in the midfield, especially Elliott was in that mix as well, but he has seemingly picked up a position and gone ahead. Out of the final corner, you can see that Alpine fumble, a bit of a mistake on the driver's part, but then again, AlphaTauri opportunity for Matteo to make this move count, and down the inside he'll go level pegging and almost bumps wheels, and I believe he won't be able to stay level pegging through the S's. He will have to concede the position. Somehow manages to stay as close to the gearbox of that Alpine regardless, and I like to think Kintix is thinking to himself, keep going boys, make way for me.
It's a little bit of contact between Matteo and McBlurk that forced him effectively to back off. You had a little bassy thump of carbon meeting carbon. And in this case, it's going to be a difficult one to sort of pull back. You're going to start coming up to drivers who may be thinking about pitting early, pitting late. Joris is going to retire from the session in the pit lane. And after falling over 30 seconds behind, I wouldn't blame them. Barros is going to keep going, however. Great to see that resilience at play. Is Matteo going to go for another move? No, he is not. Even with the DRS and McBlurk with absolutely nothing in the way of battery, it's looking like a tough sell.
Yeah, without a doubt, and seemingly back up in front for Zekas, who was on a phenomenal run on those mediums. I think he's slowing quite a bit, so I think those mediums have run its course. Might have just run its course. I like to think he's gonna take it up to about 15 laps or so. Oh, a bit of a twitch from the AlphaTauri. Matteo there around right in the penultimate corner, in fact, but on the main straight, there won't be moves regardless of having DRS, but it is advantage AlphaTauri. Even in the midfield, he's got most of the ERS amongst the 4 drivers there.
And speaking of looking at the front, so Klaffenbach is going to be on a real mission now. And like we were saying when Noel Carman was in an identical position, can use the DRS to his advantage, use a little bit of slipstream to reserve resources. We're seeing this right here because Yuki has 30% more battery compared to that McLaren, and that could be the difference between a potential move or not. So Carman, while he is doing his best to conserve battery while still retaining a decent gap, ultimately with that advantage of having the DRS behind him, is not going to last all that long. He just has to hope and wait that he can keep it going until at least the pit window.
Yeah, you can already see Leo Lund being that blocker, as you mentioned earlier on. He's opened up a 2 seconds gap to himself, as well as, I'd like to think, Yuki, right? And yeah, he's going to be holding up the pack. And yeah, there's going to be battles unraveling right behind him. And he'll have a bit of clear air up in front of him.
I do hope that they are in comms, because the one thing they cannot do is double stack, because that is going to really throw their entire composition out of whack completely. So the likes of Klappenbach and Matteo maybe can make a case for it, but even so, they are still relatively close in terms of on-track space. So you don't want to be double stacking, need to coordinate, because if you can keep up this P1 and P3 composition, they are going to be absolutely set to take this.
Yeah, without a doubt. And humongous gaps at the back of the pack with cars at 20 seconds off pace, pretty much. And as I say that, Justin, that racer from the back of the pack heads into the pits. Leo Lund picks up 3-second time penalty, not something you can afford. But then again, as long as that track position is secure for now, Noah Carman is in a brilliant position for now. Alexander Dimas still within a second of him. Elfin to follow. Fazekas, despite being on the mediums, continues to stay in P6 within a second of Elfin, guaranteeing DRS on the main straight to keep up with the rest of the drivers. And yeah, Sector 3 briefly went for yellow.
Yeah, so with Leo Lund's 3-second time penalty, crunching a bit of the numbers, that would look to put them about P8, P7, P8, which crucially is still ahead of Matteo. Matteo, looking at adjustments, will still come out about P10. So that couple positions, constructors, matter massively. So I think, yeah, at this point, even with that 3-second time penalty, Leo Lund can still play that team game effectively, can still hold the line, so to speak, against the likes of Dimas and Elfin as they continue to put persistent pressure, and Klappenbach continues to put persistent pressure on that McLaren up ahead.
Yeah, let's not forget, we've got so far 5 drivers who got time penalties to their names. What's to say the rest of the drivers won't get some in the course of this race? We're only closing in on the halfway mark of the race. Fazekas looks closer than usual on Elfin there up top, while Danico and Sparky right behind, actually losing pace to the likes of Fazekas, as you'd imagine. But yeah, down to Matteo, who seemingly is 3/10 to McBlock, ever so close to the Alpines gearbox. And I like to think come Sector 3, this back straight, Sector 2, he'll be able to mount a challenge.
I say with Matteo right now, has a little bit of battery, but importantly, McBlock is sort of just squeezing by it and hovering about 10%, which is going to be huge because McBlock doesn't have DRS either. He's out of range of Elliott, and it's going to be all more important as Matteo goes round. Sparky and Fazekas both getting time penalties to their name, both pushing a bit too hard. Matteo is going to make it into P10 though. And that crucial move is going to mean absolutely everything. Is that Barros going backwards on track? Yes, he is. He's gone backwards on track to get into the pit lane entry.
Yeah, no front wing, not looking great for him. And that is a full course yellow just when Yuki had started to close in on Noah Carman and sneaks straight into the pits. Sneaks very closely straight into the pits, and Leo Lund follows suit. Noah Carman remains out on track, the only one out in front.
Well, Noah Carman can potentially use this to his advantage. There's a big shake-up right now, but it is going to be sort of with, I believe this is a VSC out rather than a full core. This is a VSC, it looks like, so keep the delta. Noah Carman has potentially dodged a bullet, while Klappenbach has been very clever, very sneaky. I will give him that. Elfin has also opted to stay out on track. keeping the delta, keeping that position, and then going in on the next lap effectively avoids the double stack problem we were talking about before. And there you go. They say drive-through penalties are being dished out left, right, and center for speeding under the VSC. And as the VSC gets lifted now, you've got a lot more drivers suddenly in the sticks.
Yeah, and a bunch of these medium runners still trying their best to get heat into their tires. I'm on board Dimas right now as he closes in on Leonard Jash, who's decided to stay out on track, much like Noah Carmen and Elfin. And he'll be fresh for the picking on that back straight. That Ferrari on mediums, there's nothing stopping Dimas. And he'll get that position as easy as it might be. He'll be closing in on Leo Lund next, who's also on a fresh set of mediums.
And I think the crucial thing here as well is that almost similarly to how the leader doesn't have DRS, Klaffenbach, they're in a space of their own. So they don't really have the opportunity. Carmen look like he's heading into the pits right now. Unfortunately, I think in the back of his mind, he was maybe hoping for a full course safety car because that would have given him that safety window. And looking at Carmen right now, he's going to be getting onto a set of mediums, but is he going to be out quick enough? There is a time loss associated with the VSC. He just needs to make sure he's out like a rocket of that pit stop. He's not going to get out ahead of his competitor, but he is still going to have a little bit of damage control, and he's going to come out in P5. But Blurk retiring from the session, not sure what's going on there, but that is, speaking of, a full core. That is a full core safety car coming out literally as soon as Carmen comes out of the pits.
Talk about timing. And McBlurk retires from the race on the final corner, where every lap, pretty much every lap where I was on board, riding on board McBlurk, he had a bit of a twitch on the steering wheel or got thrown off track just a tad bit. So yeah, no surprise there, McBlurk retiring in the final corner of the track. And yeah, Justin, that racer heads in the pits, might just be the only driver to head into the pits, but I'd like to think a couple of the other drivers will follow suit. Our race leader, even perhaps Ilfin, who's been on those hard tires and stayed out and not gone along with Noah Carmen into the pits.
I'll say, yeah, Elfin really cannot afford to stay on those hards because they know that this is basically the ideal opportunity to change over. They may have an issue when it comes to track position, coming out on track at the right spot, but that is more offset by the fact that they may not get an opportunity to pit with such a little time reduction or such damage control in terms of tire compound. And looks like he is going into the pits, and that is going to give Klaffenbach the tentative lead of the race. And I think this is kind of a saving grace for everyone who's got a bit spaced out by this point. 2 seconds, 1 second. Jashki's back in the fight potentially if he heads. No, he's going to head into the pits. Carmen's back in the fight. Danny Coe can join in on the action. That bringing of the field together is going to produce some absolute fireworks.
Yeah, without a doubt, even in the back of the pack where some pretty humongous gaps had been developed. But I'm curious to see how this will turn out to be now. In a fantastic turn of events, it's not Carmen in front, the McLaren in front, it is Leo Lund. He does have a 3-second time penalty, let's not forget. But will he mount a challenge, make things difficult out in front for Yuki? Is really the question. But then again, Noah Carmen's still up there, still in P4. If he can get that pass done on Alexander Dimas, I'd bet anything that he'll get that position off of Leo Lund very quickly, as the title fight will be much more important, the track position in this particular race. But yeah, we've closed in on the halfway mark of the race, and it's anyone's guess what will unravel at safety car restart.
Well, it's not even that, because remember, Leo Lund's 3-second penalty, all he really needs to do is stay on the back of Dimas, because Lund will get demoted to around P4, P5 by default, provided they keep the similar time gap together. So they just need to make sure that they stay within contention. But yes, if Carmen can get past Dimas, that is a guaranteed. If he can't, then it's still not the end of the world, because if they keep within sufficient time contention, then he's going to get promoted to P3 by nature of his teammate's penalty.
Right then, let's see how much of difficulty is coming Noah Carmen's way from Ailfin and Danico even. And safety car restart. Let's not forget about the rest of the drivers down the order as well. Fazekas, having had that spectacular run, finds himself again on a fresh set of mediums, but in P9. So all his competitors up in front on mediums as well. And at start, he might just be able to get a position or two easily, and then it is a level playing field to encounter for him. But yeah, it's anyone's guess what will unravel in at safety car restart. Like I said time and time again, I'm curious to see how the midfield battles turn out to be. It was getting very heated, very close amongst Elliot, Kintex, Mateo as well. Super Gaming finds himself down in P12 as well, in the thickness of the action, I'd like to think. And yeah, just excited for the safety car restart. Yuki continues to lead this race.
Well, it's like the age-old tale of sort of bringing it out at the end. This also functions as effectively a strategic reset. Everyone has a chance to fully charge their battery and effectively manage their fuel usage too. If they're a bit under, they afford to lift and coast and get themselves back into that positive deficit. If they are a little bit over, then as we saw with Noel Carmen, can absolutely rev and redline that engine to cook the fuel a little bit faster and make sure that they are running as lean as possible, because in the realm of league racing and sim racing, every millisecond counts. So if there's a way that they can attain that advantage, whatever means necessary and whatever means legal, they're gonna do it.
And without a doubt they can. And I'm surprised those gaps becoming bigger up in front, but yeah, it won't come for much at restart. And I believe the safety car might just be in this lap after all. And on lap number 17, we'll have racing once again around Circuit of the Americas. It's the title finale here at PSGL F5 PC. And I'm on the edge of my seat as always. Any guesses on any predictions, any sort of predictions for the safety car restart, Sappy?
Oh, well, I know that we're going to see Kaffenbach try and get the jump on Leo Lund at the very least. And he is going to get a little bit of a gap, I'm predicting. But it's not going to be enough to shy away the fact that he's under immense pressure to perform. P1, great place to be, has relatively fresh tyres. Mind you, there is going to be a little bit of a difference because that +1 or +2 laps in the case of Ailfin or Carmen is going to prove crucial in the later stages in terms of keeping the car together. Just make sure that they don't let the pressure get the better of them. And we're looking on board with Yuki to see what kind of start they get away with. And of course, controlling the pace of the race, a little bit of gunning it, trying to psych out the competition, and it is a little bit of mind games. That's all that matters. Elliot drops out in a big way though, but there you go, that's going to be full push from Klaffenbach. Not going to be quite getting the jump as they thought, but it is going to put a big gap between Lund and Dimas. Coleman is no choice but to be stuck behind that Ferrari. Memento is going to get a quick penalty for good measure. And that leaves everyone back up at full racing speed. Now, Super Gaming going to get a bit of a battle on with Mateo as they are seemingly... Mateo is dropping down places in a big way. Going to go side by side with someone. Almost heading in through the first sector, but not quite going to be anything coming to blows. And thankfully, nobody has come off track yet.
Yeah, at the safety car restart, both McLarens were weaving as much as they could, considering I feel like they didn't have enough heat in their tires yet. You can see that in terms of gaps as well. But yeah, on the back straight, I don't think we'll see moves up ahead, but Leonard Jast is incredibly close to Fazekas. And will he dare dive down the inside? I don't think he will. He will have to hold that position. Kintex as well, still within 3/10, and this is where you can expect some racing action on this lap.
Yeah, so this is where the fun begins. And where the fun begins is with a little prancing horse called Alexander Dimas. He's right in between the two McLarens here and is really going to serve as the yardstick for how this title fight could potentially go. Now, if he keeps Leo Lund honest, keeps on the back of him, then we're going to see a real fight to the potential line. Of course, if there is a big gap, a big getaway, it's Klaffenbach sets the fastest lap of the race so far on those medium compounds, showing that he is really absolutely pulling out his absolute A game, bringing in nothing less than the magic that we expected from our title fighters. Carmen is also potentially looking like they could be burning a little bit more just to keep up. It's looking like a maybe potential struggle.
Yeah, and the midfield battles have begun. Kintek's first one to make the pass on Leonard. Super Gaming closing in, and Matteo's not too far behind as well. So a four-way battle of sorts with Momento not too far behind. Make it a five-way battle in the midfield. And this is all for P10, mind you, because Leonard Jash seemingly does not have the pace.
It's just looking around for potential options right now. And that is the thing. Drivers have very little options in a lot of ways. DRS is not enabled, so we can't expect the top runners to be getting a major jump on the race leader. Because, of course, they're going to have the clean air, they're going to have a little bit of free running. And with that, Klaffenbach just has to hope that he's able to get away. And in fact, already burnt half of his battery in just these couple laps for the purposes of trying to get away. Importantly, though, Leo Lund has dropped Dimas out of his DRS range, and that is either going to be crucial or potentially a threat to Carmen's title bid.
Without a doubt, Yuki sets the fastest lap time as well of the race, but yeah, just diverting our attention back to the midfield. Super Gaming on his toes, trying to close in on Leonard once again, who's again lost a whole second in a matter of a lap to Kintek. So as Alexander Dimas is seemingly holding up the front of the pack, it is in the midfield Leonard who's holding up the rest of the folks, but it's Matteo Momento battling it out there for P12 as Momento has made the pass on that AlphaTauri. So it's an AlphaTauri getting past to the back of the pack, and seemingly might just get past once again as Justin, that racer now edges closer.
I have to wonder if that AlphaTauri has potential damage, because of course to lose that amount of pace in that short of a time is indicative of usually a fairly big problem. We see Justin the Racer heading on the inside, not making the pass, making sure they have the DRS first. But saying that, and speaking of DRS, at the top, Leo Lund makes a surprise surge, puts everything into the move against Klaffenbach, gets round, is going to be absolutely stuck on the battery front though. Carmen is around Dimas, and all of a sudden the McLarens have mobilized.
Yeah, talk about timing, a clean McLaren pass twice in the same corner. And yeah, now Yuki's got all the pressure on him. McLaren in front, McLaren right behind, charging, and will be ready to pick his position off. Around the final corner, you can see Carmen closing in so close to the gearbox of that AlphaTauri. He's got a bit of ERS, not as much as Yuki does, but Yuki will be deploying as much as he can, I'd like to think, to keep that gap to Leo Lund just as much. See how close he gets, and down the inside goes Noah Carmen. Ensures he doesn't lock up. A tricky little move by Leo Lund up in front with a late break, is early braking from him. It's a McLaren 1-2 in lap number 20.
Almost looked like there was contact there. It looked so close, but it just about managed to make it work as his teammate nearly closed the door but left just enough space to get that move done. And now Klaffenbach has a double threat on his hands. Of course, he has a lot more battery. He's got 44% compared to Coleman's 6 and Lund's 10, but he is, of course, going to deal with the fact that there are two McLarens in front and they can just as easily coordinate together.
What a pass by Noah Carmen. What team, incredible teamwork from Leo Lund. But here comes Yuki trying his best. He's got DRS, he deployed a bit of ERS, weaves to the left hand side, dives down the inside in similar fashion of Noah Carmen in turn 1, pushes Noah Carmen off track, and up into P2 he goes once again.
Yeah, so it did look a little bit rough there for Coleman, so he's just not having the room, going over a little bit of the sausage curbs coming out of that corner there. But they are going to be in a little bit of trouble, but importantly, the big move that mattered is that through all of that, Leo Lund is ahead and potentially could be out of DRS range of Klaffenbach if he really pushes to that absolute extreme.
Yeah, yet again on the main straight, it's anyone's guess who's going to make the pass, but this time around, The gaps have extended beyond half a second or so, but midfield battles continue. Leonard and Momento. This time around, Momento gets the jump on Leonard, but Leonard's coming right on back, stays on the gearbox of the Aston Martin. Just in that racer close behind, and through the yeses, it's the Aston Martin in the lead of that fight.
Let's say they've got the micro battle at the bottom half of the grid, say P11 through P16, kind of its own microcosm of the race. And you have a little bit of jostling going around in the mid-pack as well. I mean, for example, take a look at Fazekas right now. He's on the back of Sparky here. Interestingly, started on mediums, gone on to mediums now, so they will have to make a switch unless they did something sneaky during the VSC period to make sure that they had those necessary switchovers. In saying that, two stops, I believe they switched onto hards for a lap before going back onto the medium to circumvent that tyre switch rule. A very smart move by the Mercedes, if true.
Yeah, but that tail end battle we were talking about this time around, Leonard gets overtaken by Justin, that racer. Something's wrong with Leonard Jash. Clearly, he's lost position after position, lap after lap, and he might just lose another one to Matteo in the AlphaTauri.
It could potentially be really struggling there, as Matteo seems to have found a bit more form. And to add insult to injury, Fazekas, speaking of, has got 3 seconds on their name for time-related penalties. And looking at the top end of the field, both of them are going to be, that being Klaffenbach and Carmen, they're both continuing to push, but more importantly, Carmen has had a little bit of a breather and has started to slowly recover some battery, where Klaffenbach is having to push it a bit more.
Yeah, a bit of an update on that tail end battle once again. Midfield this time around, actually, as Fazekas has made the move on Sparky down the inside on turn 1, and it is D-Mans picking up a 3-second time penalty as he continues to run in P4. And yeah, these battles are just going to get even more intense as we head into the final 6 laps of this race.
And penalties left, right and centre. Big shake-ups to the driving order. But what matters is this. Leo Lund leads the race on track, but if he finishes in the current position, he will be dropped down to, I believe it is P4. If Carmen manages to get past Klaffenbach, he will win the race and take the Drivers' Championship, but crucially, all he needs to do is stay behind Klaffenbach and really can be demoted to behind Dimas if necessary, because all he needs to do is finish higher than 4th to retain the Drivers' Championship. Or obtain, I should say.
Without a doubt, things might just get even more trickier come the last 2 laps. We've seen that, pattern of sorts here in PSGL PCF5. But yeah, back to that battle in the front. If anything, now Carmen now edging closer to Yuki once again. He has been in that half a second range so far. Now he's going into the 3/10. No battery, however. Yuki's still at an advantage there, but do you really need battery when your teammate is leading this race? One could argue, but then again, you'd need everything you can get in the tail end of a race like this one for the title.
Well, you absolutely need battery. I think it's one of your most crucial tools in your arsenal, for the simple reason of it not being just a offensive tool. People often fixate on the overtake, but that also can mean denying an overtake. So if it comes to the case of Aelfin getting past Dimas and then charging on Carmen, then Carmen will have the resource to effectively deny that overtake with a little bit of shot of battery themselves. So having that battery is going to be all important, especially if they want to stay on the tail of Klaffenbach, who is sitting on 40% quite comfortably and biding their time in order to eventually, I believe, get around Leo Lund.
And on the back straight, Super Gaming made the pass on Kintex. Now he's up in a P9 in this race. Danico has been incredibly close to Aelfin for a while now, and just as much. Carmen now closer and closer, edging closer and closer on the Yuki on this lap.
Just biding his time, and that's the theme with both of these drivers. They just carefully bide their time. No one needs to make a rash move. You've got 4 laps to go here, and Carmen does have technically a lap younger tyre. Goes a little bit deep through turn 1, but again, does not need to make any rash movements, just needs to do their best, stay on the rear of that AlphaTauri, make sure they don't get overtaken, and make sure they have the resources to defend their position. As long as their teammate is up ahead, they have it.
Yeah, clean laps too. They need to ensure they get clean laps for these last 4 laps or so. No time penalties, mind you. Both title rivals are clearly, title contenders are clearly without penalties, and Elfin as well. But that is battling Fazekas, dies on the inside of Danko, up in to P6. But Danko will have the DRS as well. So will Fazekas. Even more close to Danko, I'd like to think he'll move to the left-hand side of the track, but that's a battle up in front. It's Yuki on Leo Lund and on the back straight, but Leo Lund's not giving that position up easily. He's trying his best to stay within half a car length of Yuki as well. Noah Carmen edging closer. What a fantastic turn of events. It was McLaren on AlphaTauri. It was AlphaTauri on McLaren up in front.
Yeah, so they're both fighting to keep their positions now. Leo Lund is absolutely doing everything he can. You can see the looking left, the looking right, that he is looking for every opportunity to reassert his position there, but waits a little bit of time. Crucially, as this could be like the pendulum effect, and so I've mentioned this before, but the pendulum is where you have a pole sitter and a challenger. You want to time that pendulum of trading P1 and P2 so that when you come to the final lap, you are out on top. So I would not be surprised if we see the McLarens tactically hanging back a little bit for the next couple of laps and then swing it on the final run around Kota.
Yeah, without a doubt, that's the wisest thing they can do. If anyone's doing it, it might just be Noah Carmen, but Leo Lund is anxious. He is edging, trying his best to get ahead of Yuki now rather than later, as Matteo down the order picks up a 3 seconds, and Noah Carmen has backed off quite a bit, but Leo Lund seemingly does not want to back off.
Yeah, say Fazeka's going a little bit wide there, coming through to the back straight. And I think, say, Coleman is just biding his time. He can recognize that his teammate is going for a fight, and his teammate is going to challenge, and he's going to be going down the inside. Oh, Klappenbach here, going to be absolutely sending it. Is Klappenbach going to get a switchback? He's going to immediately surge around the outside. Leolund's going to try and keep his nose in it. It's wheel to wheel, heading into the third sector. It's going to be technical. Again, looking for that switchback, but Dimas is going to join the party and almost pushes, it looks like, Carmen wide out into P4. So suddenly, this top-end fight has got a little bit more interesting.
Yeah, Dimas out of nowhere comes in to pick off P3, and here comes Elfin. Fazekas gets pushed off track by Elfin, gets level pegging, and almost goes into the rear of Noah Carmen at the Alfa Romeo. Fazekas tucks in back into P6, but up in front, what an aggressive move from Leo Lund. You'd like to think from the right-hand side to the left-hand side of the track on the back straight. He was weaving so aggressively. I didn't think he'd dive down the inside, but he did, and he wasn't able to get the position regardless.
But here's the thing, they're all in a dead heat now. Coleman, Leo Lund, Dimas, they've all put every single ounce of their battery into these moves, and it hasn't worked. Klappenbach is sitting nice and comfy at 40% battery. He has the tools to defend really any move that comes his way. So that is kind of where the crux of it all, and what we were saying earlier about making sure you have that battery, is because now these top 3 and top 4 are separated quite heavily by battery usage. Saying that, Klappenbach going very narrow, trying to break the toe a little bit, knowing that they're going to try and get the DRS and the slipstream. Danny Cohen for Zeker's trade places a little bit further on the back. Leo Lund is going to be looking for a move. Is he going to try and go for it? No. Going to throw a dummy. Just keep that pressure on. And going a little bit too aggressive earlier. I think he's choosing to pick his battles a little bit more. Wait for that second DRS zone before going for a surge. Or at least let's hope so.
You'd think the McLarens and maybe even Yuki might just be the most aggressive one out of the top 5. But seemingly Dimas, he's more anxious than Leo Lund is to make a pass on a car out there. And clearly he's been on the gearbox of that McLaren for so long, and that dummy move from Leo Lund, he remained unfazed. Alexander Dimas, he's still within 2/10. I'd expect him making a move rather than Leo Lund onto Yuki.
Say Coleman right on the gearbox of Dimas. Speaking of, is going to be potentially going down the inside. No, Dimas is going to go narrow. Coleman has to dip out, leave the space, afford it to the rival driver. But you still got these top 4. And remember, big scope of the title fight, it's going to come down to these last couple laps. But Coleman just needs to stay where he is. If he doesn't get overtaken by Elfin, he's got this.
Oh, so close as it gets. We're on the penultimate lap, folks, of the entire season, mind you, as Yuki leads this race ahead of Leoland, Alexander Dimas, Noah Carmen. My Yuki and Noah Carmen in that title fight. Last 2 laps, all to play for.
Is absolutely all to play for, and everything on the line here. Now, is anyone going to go for any sort of large moves? Dimas throws a little bit of a dummy, goes for a bit of a weave, but doesn't commit to any move either way. Leo Lund, though, is going to be trying to commit to a move, and this is going to bring Dimas into the fold potentially, as that Ferrari is right on the tail of Leo London P2 right now. Is going to be looking left and right, trying to figure out a move, trying to figure out any potential options, but those options are just not going to come, not yet. He can't afford to do anything rash now. He's got DRS zone coming up. He could potentially poise himself to go for an overtake then. He's got 10% battery. Clapperbox still on 38%, so he has the means to fend it off, but if Leolam wants to get a move done, the time is effectively now, and he's going to get the exit as Clapperbox looks like they lost the rear coming out the final corner. It's all coming undone for the AlphaTauri potentially. Can they hold it? Dimas is round. Carmen is round. Clapperbach is in P3, fighting for space, banging wheels with that McLaren. Is not looking good all of a sudden. It's completely gone upside down.
At the start of the final lap, mind you, as Elfin is now ever so close to the McLaren and the AlphaTauri as well. Leo Landry takes the lead of this race. Dimas to follow. What a race this is turning out to be on the final lap. Now, let's not forget time penalties for Leo Lund and Alexander Dimas. So, essentially, you could consider this Yuki and Noah Carmen P1 and P2 respectively provisionally so far. Now, a 10th between our title rivals. DRS, ERS advantage still in the hands of Yuki, but Carmen might just attempt a move on the back straight as he's waiting patiently, weaves to the right hand side of the track and sends it around the outside. Contact between the two and gets pushed off track. That is Elfine down the inside as well, mind you, and it's almost 4 abreast coming out of that corner. Contact all around. AlphaTauri getting bullied essentially, but Noah Carmen down to P5, Sappy.
It's got to be looking around for anything he can do in this situation. Manages to get around Clappenbach, and really, Coleman has done the best that he can, just like Julian does. But Ailfin might be poised to take a surprise win in the final few corners of the race. And as Leo Lund is about to cross the line, no, Clappenbach's going to find a Hail Mary, and it's going to get it round. It's going to effectively force it, and it's going to be a P1 for Ailfin, a P2 for Clappenbach, and a P3, and P4 for the McLarens. A final send in the race from Clappenbach is going to secure that P2. Wow.
What?
What an ending of the race there. It's just the final moments. You don't expect any drama. You don't expect any fireworks. Everyone looks to be settled, and then Clappenbach just fires it through. A final Hail Mary. And it worked. It worked. There we go. As we get to the podium in just a second, if the game wishes to behave, we'll be able to see in full view our winners. But this does mean, and of course, by the way, let us know who your driver of the day was. But this is going to mean that by all accounts, we have drivers and constructors champions. Provisional, but drivers and constructors champions today. Looking at the top row, Ailfin with a surprise win, really knocking it out of the park, almost silently getting a real banger of a race to finish off the season, with Carmen and Yuki just behind. And looking at your standings, here they are, folks. So, of course, Ailfin with that beautiful surprise win in the last stretches of the race. Clappenbach is also going to get fastest lap, so that'll be a point in their favour, but it's not going to be enough of a deficit, because Carmen in P3 with that 7-point lead is going to be our Season 32 F5 PC champion, with his teammate almost fittingly in P4 is going to also lock up that McLaren's constructor. I cannot wait to talk to them, because we've got a lot to talk about. What a race that was. And I
I think
am simply lost for words.
Yeah, I think we can talk about those last two laps so much, so much. And I just want to say, it's almost like the season has come full circle. After so many pole positions, after so many attempts at ensuring he finishes on the podium, and he has once or twice, but Hailfin wrapping up the season finale on the top step of the podium is just fantastic to see. But yeah, that last lap, that last corner lunge from Yuki, my oh my. I don't think I've seen that in league racing in a long time.
Yeah, and I think just taking a look at the standings and looking at the numbers, yeah, that P2 to P3 is going to be what secures it. Justin did do a very good job as well of securing some points, so they are going to be walking away with a P3, I believe. As Norby is not here, Super Gaming is going to get also a bit of a promotion to P4. And of course, this is assuming all provisional. DMAS is a bit further behind, so is not going to be walking away with a big points promotion, but we've got a lot to talk about. And we have none other than our potential drivers champion himself in the comms box. Let's bring him in. So it's a real sight to see. But Noel Carmen, you are the provisional season 32 champion. How are you feeling, mate?
Yeah, I don't know, bro. I'm out of words, honestly, but no, I'm really happy. Not too happy about how the last laps sent, like from racecraft and etc. But I'm really happy from that, bro. Yeah, I mean, I don't see anything people can report me for, and I have a lot of people I can report people for. So I mean, it's not been either ways, in my opinion. But yeah, I mean,
yeah, I mean, you don't really want you want the championship to be decided by the grid, not the stewards necessarily. But I don't know, while on the subject, what was your perspective? Because we saw basically everything kicking off in that last lap. What was your take on the whole ordeal?
Well, penalties. I don't know what happened to Yuchi. It almost felt like he had damage because he was braking very early and etc. But unfortunate for him. But me was just trying to not die. I know people have penalties, and I saw a lot of battling behind me, which I don't think is fair. So I was like, okay, if I just keep this position, I'll at least get P2 or like, you know. So just trying to not die. That's basically the entire race, except for trying to get past people after the safety car, which was a disaster. But yeah, it is what it is.
One of the many moments in the race that I really enjoyed watching was definitely the part where right before the McLarens were 1 and 2, you sent it down the inside into turn 1, and Leoland would just parked his car brilliantly to ensure you got that P2 tucked right behind him. How was that moment on comms? I'd love to hear from you.
Oh, I mean, say it again, bro. I don't know, focusing. Say it again.
Oh, okay. The moment you made the pass on a Yuki and it was McLaren 1 and 2, that moment, how was it for you in the comms, and overall how Leoland has been as a teammate in this race and the season?
I mean, no, I was like, okay, let's go. And I have from my engineer, shout out to Bloom, by the way, that YouTube was low on battery. So it's like, okay, maybe I can have this. I know he had better top speed than me. But yeah, he got past me. It is what it is. I was just trying to get P3. So, but yeah, I mean, I've got to give it to Leo. He's been a fantastic teammate the entire season. And to bring home both the drivers and constructors is a absolute, I mean, I don't know what to say. It's really nice. I just feel like me and Leo has been by far the best teammates. Obviously, there's been some hot takes sometimes, but I mean, we come back from it, we talk it through it, and yeah, I mean, I don't know what to say. He's just been fantastic. Thank you, Leo.
Yeah, I think it's a team effort, and really, I say, you got Bloom in the chat there, you got your teammate Leo, and of course you got yourself, a brilliant driving performance. and it really just all came together, I think. So, of course, to say that is a wrap on season 32, but what's your perspective heading into potentially if you're going season 33? Because correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the Drivers' Champion gets to make themselves at home, in your case, up in F4.
That's correct. I think there's not only going to be me from F5 in F1 next season, but I mean, to just bring home the champion and being a PSGL champion is just, yeah, it brings more. It brings more than being P2, losing it out on the last lap, maybe, and last lap. It's just, I don't know. I think, yeah, F4 is going to be way tougher. I don't think I'm going to win any championships there. But goal is to get even higher than F4, obviously. We'll see. Hopefully I can perform next season as well.
So I'm looking forward to it personally. We'll be eagerly watching, even if I may not be, or Sartek may not be the commentators. I know we'll be eagerly watching to see how you do. And we'll say Drivers' Champion, Constructors' Champion with McLaren. I think that's something that you can wear with pride, mate. That's something you can absolutely be proud of. You and the whole team.
Constructors, you gotta give it to Leo as well.
Yeah, say your whole team, Leo Lund as well. Don't know if we'll be able to talk to him, unfortunately, but certainly hold your heads high.
Yeah.
And we are looking forward to seeing you in F4, Mr. Champion. It's been a pleasure talking to you. Pleasure commentating over you, and we will see you when we see you, I guess.
Yeah. Thank you for streaming this entire season. You've been amazing as commentators. Thank you, both of you.
Thank you, mate. It's been a pleasure.
Appreciate it, mate.
And there we go, folks. So that is going to draw things to a close here in PCF5. Now, I remember doing a sentimental speech, if my camera would work. I remember doing a sentimental speech in season 31, and season 32 is absolutely no different. If you hear me going distance, that's because I'm fixing my camera. But I can say without a shadow of a doubt, it has been a legendary experience commentating for PSGL. It's a F5 never fails to disappoint. PSGL never fails to disappoint. I'm hopefully going to be able to commentate heading into season 33 and beyond. Although saying that, I may not have internet because I'm moving into a new flat. But I'll say, and for my co-commentator Sartak, you have been an absolute pleasure to commentate with, and it has been an amazing experience. So thank you to all the drivers, thank you to PSGL for making it possible, and yeah, you're amazing, mate, in particular.
Likewise, Sappy. I think a bit of a bummer on my side for missing a couple of races, but if there's one thing PSGL showed me, especially F5, is that every driver is quite the driver. And I think we saw that throughout the course of the season. Each driver having their best moments, couple of worst moments, and like I said earlier on, full circle with the likes of Ailfin being on the top step of the podium. I think that was something I really wanted to see after all those qualifying sessions. But yeah, it's been a treat. Hopefully get to get behind the mic once again for one of the tiers in PSGL. And yeah, hopefully all the drivers had a good time throughout the season.
And of course, we look forward to season 33. Yeah, so 11 races we have completed, and a PCF5 champion we have crowned, and a team also walks away with a trophy. In terms of season 33, all changes. Watch this space. More to be announced in the coming days and weeks, but certainly check out our sponsors. It's been an absolute pleasure, and for the final time for F5 PC and signing off for season 32, we will see you in the future, wherever that may go. You've all been amazing, and we'll see you next time.
It's been a pleasure. See you next season.
This broadcast was brought to you by GT Omega, proudly supporting PSGL.